Yeah.
All right, we are back. And here we go. We're going to finish up chapter 13. Don't miss out on self-realization. It's been a couple of weeks, and that is good. And we are talking about, basically, we began to talk about don't miss out on yourself. You are the biggest asset you have. You are the biggest and the most important person in your life is you. And you've been given a limited time opportunity to be here on this world to gain as much as you possibly can. And therefore, our time becomes one of the most valuable commodities that we have. And we have to be careful with how we use it. Because even within the short period of life in and of itself, there are little pockets of time that also have unique opportunities. And if we don't seize them and take opportunity of them, they close and then there are no more. For example, when you miss the sign up date for something, right? Getting slapped with a late fee might be a little minute thing, but when the door closes on your psychological and emotional development as a human being, and then you have to play catch up your whole life. When a person, for example, passes up on the opportunity to go to yeshiva and seminary right after high school and instead goes after college 4 years later, they can spend their entire life playing catch up. So there are unique opportunities that exist within the time frame that if a person misses out on, it can be extremely costly. And on the macro level, a person misses out on themselves. On May of Esther, when they're facing in front of Hashem, and Hashem says, I sent you down there for you to change the world and change yourself. And what did you do with your time? You focused on all the wrong things. What can we possibly say? That we didn't have the resources? We're in the Olam HaEmes, we'll be in the world of truth. All will be known at that point. So let's continue. We're on page 289 over here. As we explained to you earlier, that it's not enough to simply perform good deeds. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We are further than that, right? I used someone else's safer for the last chapter.
I think we're on 297.
That makes more sense. Yes, because I think 295.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably the
295.
the bottom of 295.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, because I
Like
remember
that
last time
last paragraph,
I
the
was at
if
my
you begin.
mother-in-law's house and I used a different safer. Okay, so here we
Okay.
go. So if you begin where you're still young, then there are many details of Avodas Hashem and Tikkun HaNefesh that you can perfect within yourself to the extent that they become second nature. Why? Because the easiest time to learn, the younger you are, the easier it is to learn something, especially a habit, make something habitual. That's with anything, with an instrument, with a language, anything. The younger you learn it, the more easy it becomes part of your second nature. Now, why is it of value to change yourself and have it become second nature? As the book we're reading, the Atomic Habits book, right? That repetition of an action is eventually going to become habitual, and then habitual becomes your character. Now, everyone will have good or bad habits, and that will define you no matter what. The question is, did you choose what those things are, or did they happen naturally out of life, just because they were there and accessible? Most people habits are thrusted upon them through their lifestyle rather than going out and choosing. But if you're going out to say, I want to grow and develop, and you're choosing your habits, which midos to acquire onto yourself and things like that. The younger you are, then the quicker and easier it becomes to make them second nature. Why? Because when they're second nature, you don't have to exert so much emotional energy and effort in order to do it. Right? If you want to be a kind person who does chesed, then chesed, if it becomes second nature, is just something natural that you do. Now that you've acquired that midah, you can go on to focus on other things to work on, as opposed to being in a state of that spiritual seesaw your whole life, struggling to try to accomplish this specific task or this specific midah. So you want to be able to make things a part of your nature, right? I'm struggling to keep Shabbos. Once I start keeping Shabbos, once I am Shabbos, I don't keep Shabbos, I am Shabbos every single week. It's already, now it could lose its flavor if you fall into just the habit itself and lose the why. But if you do it in a healthy way and it becomes a part of you and your identity, then yes, then it's something you don't have to put a lot of effort and energy and exert a lot of strain on, and you can start to focus on other things to acquire to make of yourself. The younger you are, the better. And you will no longer keep reminding yourself about them. For example, you can reach the point where you walk down the street, you won't have to close your eyes in order to avoid seeing things that are forbidden, because you'll have trained yourself simply not to see them. Avert my eyes from seeing worthlessness, as it says in Tehillim, David Melech, so that your eyes themselves won't see the things that is worthless to see. Shmiras Einayim, it's a great example, right? Now, not to say that a certain danger or taiva, and I think this is more prevalent for boys than it is for girls, but things that you shouldn't look at that are inappropriate. Young boys struggle with that a lot, but when they work and they elevate themselves in a level of kedusha that's so holy that they don't doesn't even like it doesn't even like affect, like they don't even realize that it exists, right? let's say Lashon Hara. You find people who are so pure in Lashon Hara, they don't accidentally, oh, whoops, sorry, I'm speaking Lashon Hara, because it doesn't even cross their mind. I would never speak about another person. What does that even mean? Right? So you get to a place where now you don't have to spend all your energy and effort and be like, oh my God, I have to make sure I don't slip in this area. No, I'm good. I've covered it. It's no longer that a taiva for me. I've surpassed it. It's a taiva, but I am so much stronger and bigger than it. Now I have to focus on the next thing according to my level, or as Rabbi Kiva Tatz calls it, your point of free will moves as you grow. Don't imagine that we're making the mistake by thinking that you become so holy overnight to the extent that even if your eyes happen upon something you shouldn't be looking at, you won't see it, as King David requested. Know, my dear child, that we are not the ones who are mistaken. Everyone else is making a drastic mistake by thinking that this world that Hashem created is some kind of storehouse of evil desires, thoughts, and tendencies, and that whoever wants to serve Hashem has to distance himself and withdraw from worldly matters. This is so powerful and the way of the chassid. As a result of this train of thought, they spend their entire lives far from avodas Hashem and kedusha. Rather, they are sunk into the inanities of this world. I don't know what that word is, but basically that kedusha is meant to be brought onto this world, in this world. So it's not that you're removing yourself. Well, that could be a helpful strategy, but when a person adapts themselves into a thing of kedusha, the greatest defense is a good offense. You just go and you're going and you're building, and you don't have time for that stuff, right? Even now with this workout program, right? When you're feeling good and you're getting in shape and you're on a roll with it, when you see like someone comes along with donuts, right? On a random day, you're like, oh my God, I really want one of those Krispy Kremes. But when you've been like, all right, I'm already like a few months into this and someone brought free donuts, it doesn't even like I'm operating on a different level. I'm out of the realm of that anymore. It doesn't even affect me. Kind of like that, if you get the mushal. This is like someone who sees a person drowning himself in a river and comes to the conclusion that water is a bad thing and was only created in order to cause death. How foolish is such a person? Can a person live without water? And because one idiot decided to use water for a negative purpose rather than using it to water plants or for animals or for man's benefit, to use to kill himself, does that mean that water is an evil thing? You get the mushal he's trying to highlight over here? Yeah, Ree.
There's a really cool like news thingy I read today that bee stings, it was like research like just confirmed it. I don't know what like I don't know science whatever that a bee sting can like destroy breast cancer cells in women whatever, and it was like everyone like looks at like bee stings and they're like it's such a negative, it's like a weird example but it's like it's such like a negative thing, like where's like the good in it, and it's like the fact that it can do that, I was like whoa Hashem, that's cool.
Oh, cool. All
Like
right.
it's similar
These
vibes, like
things can
spin.
cure cancer now. Science has
Yay!
spoken.
No, but I don't know how the
I know.
science
I
works.
get what you mean. I
Yeah.
get what you mean. Nothing in this world is bad. There is the potential for evil, but
Saying
if a
even like the
person,
stupidest thing that you would think is like, where's the good in the
yeah,
fact that it
things
hurts
things are
me?
things are neutral. Things are neutral based on how the way how a person wants to use them with their bechira, with their free will. But yeah, if you're again, the best defense is a
Everyone
great
needs the
offense.
bees.
We apply a very similar strategy when it comes to TGJ, right? There's a lot of tuma on the bus. There's a lot of impurity in naturally you're taking 120 teenagers and you're putting them on a bus. Naturally, there's going to be impurities. So as a staff, rather than trying to minimize the impurity, we try to bring overwhelming kedusha, and we're outnumbered, and it works. People tend to start to move away from that stuff and move towards the realms of kedusha. It just starts to not exist almost. So the same idea applies to everything in this world, the world that Hashem created. Even at the lowest level of this world, with all its twisted crookedness, there exists paths, tunnels, and caves that leads to the Creator and the Master of the world. The fault lies solely in man, who fails to utilize the tools of this positively, but rather uses them negatively. The verse declares in Mishlei, a man's foolishness corrupts his ways, and his heart rages against Hashem. In other words, there are ways that will lead you to Hashem, only you corrupt them. And if that's the case, then why are they getting upset and they're speaking perversions as though Chas v'shalom Hashem created a world full of materialism to the extent that it's impossible to serve our Creator within it? Person have to have this understanding, this mindset. Listen, again, there are hashkafas who believe that you should detach yourself from all things physical and things like that. We're here to bring kedusha into everything that we do. We're here to go on the offense and say that I'm going to v'asuli mikdash b'shachanti v'soichem, that I am going to make myself into that vessel that Hashem can dwell in. And if I do that, I'm bringing light to the entire world. But you have to know what you're capable of, right? A person, that does not mean that a person should throw themselves into a test that they can't handle, engulf themselves into oh, I'm going to go to all the parties in high school. I'm going to bring kedusha there. Yeah, on a small level, small wins, but should you be entering a situation that is beyond you? No. So you have to know what level you're at. But in the world we live in today, for sure, a person could bring kedusha. And when again, a lot of people have insecurity in their Judaism. When you come with confidence in kedusha, it rubs off on other people, and that's exactly why it works in the summer, even though we're outnumbered 5-1, right? Even though that's the case, I'm sorry, it's 6-1 even. Even though that's the case, we bring so much kedusha. We work on ourselves to make ourselves radiant with godliness that nobody stands a chance out there. You know? The same thing goes for our subject. You have the ability to reach the tremendous level, not even seeing that which is unnecessary and evil while you're here in this world. Again, it's a lofty level, but to some degree, it is obtainable. Even if you've not yet elevated yourself to the level of such of a great tzaddik and your eyes have not become so holy that you can see negative images but not register them, you still have the power to reach it. If while you're young, you accustom yourself in the ways of Chassidus, as we explained here. And Chasidus being someone who just falls in love with Hashem, someone who's yearning for dvekas. That you and Hashem are like this all day, every day. You're bringing Hashem into every element of your life. You're doing it besimcha, belev shalem. You're just connected with Hashem everywhere that you go. If you're in that locked in state, imagine you're in your most spiritual high from the summer or whatever point in your life. Put yourself into one of those situations. It's not even going to affect you. If you can live your life like that, you'll just be having wins all over the place. It's a simple, well-known fact that the human brain has the ability to think minor thoughts subconsciously so that the person isn't even aware of them. For example, when a mosquito bites a person on his face, the person can unconsciously lift up his hand and scratch the bite. This didn't take place while he's awake. It could have happened when he's sleeping too. Or even while dreaming, if he realized what was going on. He hasn't been aware of his brain's message telling him that he got bitten and activated his hand to scratch the bite. We are not going to explain how the brain accomplishes this. We're merely presenting this fact. This phenomenon isn't limited to things that have been embedded in a person's subconscious at birth. It can occur with regardless to habits as he gradually became accustomed to them as well. Meaning that if there's something that's so habitual, like in your sleep, you can even do it. Can we get to our place ourselves to a place where something is so ingrained in us that it's just a habit, it's just something that we do. It's the way that we think. It's just a part of us. Right? That's what he's getting at. These two become ingrained in the psyche that becomes second nature and react subconsciously. For example, little children can fall off their beds at night, but at a certain age, they may roll from side to side. As soon as they reach the edge of the bed, they roll in the opposite direction. Now, the child isn't consciously aware whether he was in the middle of the bed or at its edge. He simply felt it in his body, which sent messages to his brain, which in turn sent messages to his body, telling him to move over to the middle of the bed. Even in his dreams, the child would not be aware of these powerful thoughts generated by his brain, so powerful that they moved his entire body. Even though this was not so at his younger years, now that he has grown, his awareness of not falling off the bed has been absorbed by his brain, and his veins and nerves have become second nature for him, so much so that it takes place independently and subconsciously without even realizing it. Just an example of the hand bound behind the child's back mentioned earlier, meaning that you can train yourself to be a certain way. If a person is engulfed in Kedusha, then they will start to think and see and feel Kedusha. There could be moments, pockets of your life where this does take place. For example, the summer. The reason why I love the summer is because there's intention to everything that we do. Every place that we go is packed with Kedusha. So you're just going from Kedusha to Kedusha to Kedusha to meaningful event. Then you come back and there's a Chabura, and then everything that you're doing, right? Even every minyan has value to it. While a mincha could be bland during the year, you daven a mincha on a TJJ, and it's just like there's so much to daven for, to be thankful for, to ask Hashem for. So if a person can live their life, I mean, if you can experience that on that level and just extend it, like I mean, this is really is what the seminary experience could be. It is the ingrainment of kedusha into your life. It is the avoda of not I'm not just going to do something or have an experience, because we see TJJ doesn't change it. Like even the values and the things that people want to live by or that they value doesn't necessarily follow them home in a way that's concrete for their future. For the majority of people, it withers away and falls off. But for a year, it's not even guaranteed for a year, but for that year, when you're in that zone, you're just in a state of Kedusha, you're less likely to do certain things. Things become ingrained in you. Even like kissing a mezuzah, for example. Every time you walk in through a doorpost, you've ingrained yourself and just like, I just kiss the mezuzah everywhere that I go, right? So you could start bringing that second nature element into your life. And now, well, at least Danielle has a book that she knows how to be able to incorporate that in a more practical application way.
It's also the TJJ example. Like you're learning about like the Midah maybe in like a tefillah workshop, and then like it's davening, and then it's like it's like directly
It's
after, and
practice.
you're like, whoa, it's like
Right.
crazy.
You get to practice, and then it's from one thing to the next. It's just a makam kedusha everywhere that
Everything
you
like
go.
builds off of it, but like the
Right.
fact that you're like maybe learning about, hey, the
Yeah, we're
atomic
very proud
whatever,
of her. Yep, it's the first book.
Danielle. And
Yeah.
that's like not a, Hadar was showing when I was at our house ever. I was like, oh my, like it's not like a fun read. It's like long.
No, it's not long.
No, it's a
What?
really, really good read.
It looked
It's a
like
very good read.
Very good.
It's a motivating read because it's something that we're all involved in anyway. So just like it like reaffirms our
no, the
convictions.
pages had so many words.
Okay, now I'm worried about you. You
No,
know?
I read. I like to read.
Sure.
She just continue.
All right. So if you grow up with the pure thoughts of Hasidus from
Nice
the
job,
time you are
Danielle.
young, and you engrave and develop in your heart and mind and nerves, your veins of your eyes, that there are things which you're not allowed to look at. Again, he's using Shmir Sinayim as an example, but you can use it for any type of midah or any type of thing that you want to take on. When you approach and get older, you'll find that something forbidden approaches your field of vision. Your eyes will avert them themselves and look to the right or left in order to not see it. Right? When you see something in your peripheral coming there, and this has become second nature, it just like, you don't even have to think about it. You're just not looking, you're looking away at it automatically all before you've clearly seen anything and before you registers in your brain. You won't even realize what's happening. You will never see forbidden things. However, this will only work if you don't hang around in the marketplace or in the streets for no reason, like an idler who's enjoying willing their time away outside or hanging out in the corners. It can be only effective if you walk streets for your necessary needs, and you constantly are aware of your yoke that you're serving Hashem. Don't keep thinking to yourself, "I'm not allowed to look." These kinds of thoughts are not going to be too productive. Your mind should be pure, not involved and entangled with the thoughts of whether to look or not. Move beyond this way of thinking. Just remember that you're a Jew and not a wanton creature. God forbid. Even more, accustom your mind to think thoughts of kedusha as you walk. If not, then lest try I'm sorry, then at least try to think about business matters. So again, going on the offense as opposed to just constantly being on the defense. Yeah, Danielle.
Oh, I just wanted to ask about like what yoke means because like I they always it's always like said like also in like tefillah like the
It's a
yoke of
great
like break the yoke of your necks like I don't know what that means.
I'm very happy that you asked um because that is a fundamental in Yiddishkeit. So it's a good question that I could clarify on because it's something that a person needs to know. When a person says Shema Yisrael, I'll tell you what an ol is. An ol, right, is a yoke. A yoke, if you Google it, is the wooden device that basically when a animal is plowing a field, they don't want the animal to get distracted by other things. So they place a yoke on the animal's neck. And what it does is it makes the animal submissive. It holds its head down, right? It holds its head down so it could focus on the task that it needs to do. Okay, so you can go Google it and you'll see they put two animals together, they put a yoke on its neck, and da, da, da. The Hebrew word is called ol. And why that's significant is because when a person says Shema Yisrael, right, and they're saying Shema Yisrael, listen all is hear Israel, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, that Hashem our God, Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. One of the two kavanas that a person's supposed to have in mind, number one is that he's fulfilling a mitzvah deraisa, right, in Kriya Shema, and also the mitzvah of learning Torah for a male. But the second thing is that they should be, if you ever heard anyone use this term before, mekabel ol malchus shemayim. You ever heard that before? So this is one of the most important lines in Yiddishkeit because this is our job. As Jews, our job is to be mekabel ol malchus shemayim. What does that mean? Mekabel means to accept upon ourselves, to receive, right? To kabel. Ol is the yoke. Ol malchus shemayim, the kingdom of heaven.
All like Ein Vav Lamed.
Uh, yeah, if that's how it's spelled.
I don't. I'm
Okay.
asking. I don't
Oh, no, I'll tell you right now.
know.
I'm not a writer, but it's a good question.
But wouldn't it say?
Like so, I could write the line.
Can't you look at the translation here?
Oh,
What
in the
it
heat.
said yoke.
Yes. Ayin Vav Lamed.
In the book I think
Wait,
it's just
Makabel all what? Something Shemaim?
Um, Malchus, like Malucha, Melech.
Mhm.
Where is it? Yeah, no, he says it here. Ol, but it could be. I mean, he had also like it was like Yiddish Hebrew, but he writes it here as Ayin Lamed.
Okay,
But
continue.
you can write it as Ayin Vav Lamed also. So the ol in Hebrew is the yoke, meaning what? That our job in life really is to mekabel ol malchus shemayim, meaning that we are meant to take the yoke and put it on our necks for Hashem. We are accepting upon ourselves, basically saying that I am here as a servant and I'm submitting myself to the will of Hashem. That is the battle of man. Hashem puts an ego and he hits a hara in us that's pulling us away. And our job here is, especially when we say that Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that Hashem is one, he's the one God. I have to have in mind, I'm a Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim. At the end of the day, right? I am accepting the yoke of heaven upon myself. So that's what that means. And it's a very, very important thing because number one, it's the kavana for Shema Yisrael, which you're saying twice a day, which that's the chiyuv. And number two is that's our mission here. That's our mission as Jews. We are trying to mikabel malchus shemayim. So that's what it's when you see the word yoke, that's what it's referring to. So very, very good question, and I'm happy I got to share that because that's a fundamental. It's like a real, real fundamental. And now, by the way, this is really cool. Now that I've taught you what it is, you're gonna start to hear it. Like you'll be listening to shiurim, and like you'll hear people stick it. Yeah, yeah. They'll be like this and da da da. And he was makabel al malchus shemayim, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what that means now. You're gonna start to find it everywhere because it's a very, very common thing that people say a lot. Okay. Doom, 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 doom. If you have your doubts and don't understand the truth of what we're saying here, you can ask those who are older than you. Ask any Talmidei Chachamim, and they'll verify the matter. Then why don't you need to ask anyone? Try it out. If we was explaining, you'll see for yourself everything we said is strong and sound, 100%. I mean, you can ask not just Talmidei Chachamim, but if there's something that you're working on that someone has accomplished already, speak to them about that process, about what it was to get to that place. And you'll see that it is possible, it is obtainable. So, dear student, guard yourself in your childhood and be careful during your teenage years. How sweet is it to have an adolescent and a youth that are blessed by Hashem, like a stream of honey or a river that flows from Eden. It fills one with spiritual juice for the rest of one's life, even in old age. He lives off the vibrancy and grows and flourishes from its refreshing waters. The body grows older, a person's strength wanes, but the fire of youth still burns, and he can warm himself in its heart that let its flame kindle with enthusiasm. Who would be so foolish to let these years go to waste and would be crazy enough to pollute, even obstruct this source of life? Hadar's favorite thing. But when we talk about um, the when we talk about the youth is wasted on the young, this is another area where it's so true because you don't realize how valuable it is to be a teenager until it's gone, until it's past. But think of it like this. And you can use the parable for physical life as well. If a teenager decides that they are going to be in shape, healthy, let's say their physical body, right? They work out, they exercise, they stay healthy, the chances of them being a healthy adult is almost guaranteed. I mean, unless they let themselves go later in life, but they're setting the foundation of their body that their body's eating habits and its metabolism, a lot of those things will be, the form of their body, the shape and the fitness, it will stay with them because they formulated it. Right. I even see like there's like the fat dad bods, but they still have like precision because they were very fit when they were in high school years, and vice versa. If a teenager lets themselves go and they're terribly out of shape and they eat atrociously and stuff like that, then they end up struggling with it in their adult years. It's very hard to turn that ship around. It's a great parallel for the spiritual as well. In the spiritual, if a person wastes their high school years and they say, I'm going to party, I'm going to get out of my system, then again, they can be spending their entire adult years playing catch up. But if they develop themselves, I have so much faith and excitement for those kids like you guys who take their spiritual growth serious, their learning serious, investing in themselves. And yes, it might mean that you're missing out on certain things, whether you are interested in that or not. I'm sure you have friends who look at you and go like, oh yeah, the poor girl, she can't have what I have right now. And it's comical because let's come back in 10 years and see, mi ala sus, right? We'll see who ends up benefiting more in the long run. There's no question. The investment of these youth years. So he's saying how sweet and beautiful it is to be your age where you can condition yourself in this way that is setting up the roadmap for your entire life. And it's so true. You just stick around long enough and you see how true it is. Which is again why me personally, I enjoy working with teenagers because to me it's the most significant chapter in a person's life to be able to set themselves up in the direction that they go. It's the most crucial. Not to say that anybody's like gonna guaranteed success or they're screwed if they do well or they don't do well in high school. No. But for the most part, yeah. And that's why, you find someone who's 22 years old and stuff like that. It's not so simple, right? You want to do it right, you want to do it the best in the most ideal way. It's when you're in high school. So we're not saying who didn't start serving Hashem through Hasidus when he was young and who, as a child, didn't accustom his soul to rise from its poor shroud and shake off the dust that covers us has no chance of achieving things later in life. Don't entertain such an idea. Oh my God, it's almost as if he knew what I was saying. Or maybe it's almost as if I've learned this before. The heavenly gates are open to every Jew who makes an effort and wants to commit his energies to work and carry the burden. Although the Mishnah says that whoever teaches an older person is like one who's writing on papers that have already been erased, does this, heaven forbid, mean that they'll lock the gates before those who want to do teshuvah in their later years? Absolutely nished. And that's something we cannot say enough. Nobody's screwed, even the cranky 50-year-old that I like to rag on all the time. The difference, however, lies in how much work he will have to do. An older person who wants to begin learning Torah and serving Hashem through Chassidus will have to work 10 or 100 times even more harder than a child who does the same. I promise you this is the truth. And since as a result, Rambam says that someone who suffers from flawed learning abilities can overcome them with incessant hard work. Yeah, incessant hard work. And since as a result of our abundance and our sin, there is really no one who dedicates himself with all of his strength to even the easiest aspects of Avodas Hashem, let alone the most intense, difficult ones. If you don't wake up and commit yourself to the task now when you're young, it is virtually guaranteed that you won't get there, chas v'shalom. And if it's not in your own soul, will mourn for you and shed tears over your spiritual ruination. All the souls of Klal Yisrael and Nevi'im and Tzaddikim throughout the generations will do the same. Your self-neglect and laziness will even sadden and anger Hashem himself, so to speak, master of the souls and the father of all the neshamos. Because of the darkening of the souls darken the world, and its light is their illumination. Arifa, we've said this before, that if you pass up on your potential to grow, if you skip out on your place because you think that you're an extra in this movie called life, where there are no extra amongst Klal Yisrael, if you think that is, and there for that reason, whether it's subconscious or not, it doesn't matter. Because at some point you've accepted yourself that you're going to live the good, average, easy life. If you don't realize your standing in this world and a member amongst Klal Yisrael and an Eved Hashem, then not only are you screwing yourself over, your own olam haba, your own mission of what you were put here to do, and the quality of your life, living a life of clarity and realization of feeling purpose every day you wake up out of bed, smiling morning and night because you're locked into your purpose and your truest self. But you're also damaging Klal Yisrael, you're screwing Klal Yisrael, and Hashem himself, because he's the one who put you here and he gave you kochod, he gave you strengths and abilities, and you're going to look at him and say, I'm sorry, it's not, you got the wrong guy. Who made you? Who gave you those abilities? You don't have the right to do it. We've spoken about this countless amount of times. The world is depending on you because you have a mission and a job to do here. You're not at the liberty to pass that off. There are too many people depending on you beyond just yourself. You have all of Klal Yisrael and you have Hashem. How can you pass that up? A person has to at least know they're doing the best that they can, chipping away at their greater selves. When you ask a Jew, this is a fair question to ask any Jew. What are you working on currently? There has to be an answer to that question. There has to be an answer to what am I working on currently? No one's going to ask me. No, there has to be when you stop and if they say
Avi, what are
why
you
not?
currently working on?
Or what are you learning?
The
Right?
answer.
What are you learning as well? I'll send you my Megillah afterwards. Um, but what are you learning as well? Like, how could there be a Jew who's not involved in Torah learning at any given time? There's no answer to that. It doesn't because there's no minimum amount that a person can't be working on. Every single person is capable of reading a line a day, a sentence a day. So we as Jews are constantly chipping away. Now, whether or not we're doing the best that we can, that's Hashem's business, right? After 120, you'll face Hashem and he'll say, "Listen, you could have done better." Okay, fine. Maybe we know that in ourselves, but there's no excuse to not be chipping away at the better version of ourselves, at our character, at our Yiddishkeit, at our tafkit. The more we work on ourselves, the more we become shalom, the more with clarity we understand what our purpose is. The better we're able to answer the question of what does Hashem want from me. He put us here for a mission. You start to gain that clarity, and then the quality of your life starts to improve. This is the game. This is the way that it works. And your time is so valuable. Top of page 307. We might even go further to say that if someone has devoted himself entirely working on Hasidus in his later years and has achieved it as a result of his hard, unceasing work, even so, the precious period of his life, all those years before he started his avoda, will always be lacking. The very first Hasidim during the time of the Baal Shem Tov, the Rebbe Reb Baruch of Mezhebus and others, Zatzal, are the exception to this rule because even before they became Hasidim, they were on a holy level that we cannot begin to comprehend. Besides, both they and their avoda existed on a plane beyond the limitations of nature and time. As a result, they achieved all that they did despair and the fact that they only began working on Hasidus later in life. In other words, the Mishnah in Avos says that 40 years old gains understanding, 50 years old gains counsel. That means that a person's life is separate into different periods. When he's 40, his mind is mature to achieve understanding. After another 10 years, he will arrive at a new period, and that's the ability to give counsel. This is not only relevant to the ages of 40 and 50. Every 5 to 10 years, so delineates a separate period of his life. When a person is capable and has the potential for as a teenager, he cannot do in a different period of his life, no matter how old he is. And those things a person has the potential for when he is old is not capable of when he is younger. Is again, the door closes on opportunities to be able to amass chachma and wisdom. If you missed out on this understanding that your lived experience is different, and you might be able to understand it from a conceptual way or intellectual way, you can analyze it, but to that lived experience, it's gone. That door closes. A person has to be locked in at every stage of his life. Again, compound interest. Those from an economic standpoint, those who start to save when they are younger, those who start to put money away, will inevitably be more wealthy when they're older, because they understand delayed gratification. They understand what it is to put in now, to invest and sacrifice now today. What could be more true than a teenager? When a teenager has all these taivas and wanting to do dumb things and wanting to go out and have fun, not at the cost of your own growth, you could do both. You can go jump in the pool and go TP someone's house, and you could still, you can still work on yourself and grow and still be, you don't have to lack, but a person has to understand the importance of this process. The wondrous fact can be seen in the words of the Navi when he prophesies the words of Hashem, and it shall come to pass that after this I will pour out my spirit upon all the flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. He then differentiates between the age groups, saying, your elders shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. In other words, the elders' way of seeing will through dreams, while that of young men will see through their visions. Now, we're not coming to say that we understand the distinctions between dreams and visions, yet we see that there is some kind of distinction between them. The prophet divides them into life stages, for one young man and for one the elders. It's obvious that the verse is not talking about the divine prophets who transcend their own physical limitations, time and the entire world. They reach their spiritual level but achieve no matter of what their age, because they were not beholden to any specific stage of life. The verse is talking about all of Klal Yisrael, as the next pasuk continues, even as the slaves in the maid service, I will pour out my spirit. And the general populace was subjected to whichever stage of life they were at, despite their level of greatness. Hashem will meet a person where they're at and give them siyata dishmaya to be successful in all stages. But the value in what you gain in those opportunities, they are timed, but they are priceless. In other words, even if the service of Hashem, a person is characterized according to the various periods of his life, and even the period that he is pinned for something else. For example, during the time of his youth, a person is more inclined to be enthusiastic, where in later stages of life, more prone to basking in the joy of heavenly sweetness. These are the periods of life in which one is not excited and passionate, yet he's incapable of feeling anything. And then there are times later in life when a person is not passionate, he still feels pleasantness and sweetness, even in the smaller details, such as each word of Torah and tefillah that he says. There are times, and they're all connected, by the way, when a person's enthusiasm and his entire avodas Hashem begin more in his head. He thinks deeply about other things, and then there could be times with the same enthusiasm is capable of also originating from his heart and so forth. Therefore, if one wakes up during his youth and begins to serve Hashem through Chasidus, and he invests all of his soul's capabilities in that service, when it will become ingrained in him, so that when he grows older, his avodas Hashem will be something incredibly beautiful, reflecting on all the nuances and aspects of the previous stages of life. But if he begins avodah later on, even if he achieves optimum level, those previous periods and those potential contributions will always be missing. I'll give a mashal. I like to refer to life as broken down into 3 chapters. There is preparing for life, living life, and then reflecting on life. Preparing for life is everything that happens before you get married. It's how you work on yourself. It's how you invest in yourself. It's how you build up yourself, right? You create a roadmap, so to speak. Living life is marriage, building a home, raising children. That is the ikar of life. That is the main focal part of life. That is the part of life that people on their deathbed are most focused on when it comes to reflecting on their life, which is the last period is reflecting on the life that you've lived, on all that you've built. These are the three stages of life, right? Everything comes down to how you begin that process. The way that you work on yourself, right? That there's many different zivugim, many different types of shidduchim that a person can have. And based on how you work on yourself and elevate yourself and prepare yourself, you'll get what you deserve. If you passed up on that, then guess what? You marry the zivug, you marry the soulmate who's on the lower level version of yourself. And now there can be discrepancies. You know, it's always interesting. I find couples are married who like one is religious, the other is not. It's like, how did that happen exactly? Could very well be that after they got married, right? The wife decided, oh, now she's going to come connect and work on her avodas Hashem. My husband's like, I'm not coming along for that. It's a weird dynamic, right? It creates, in the home, it creates a disconnect.
I know a lot of like halal families like that, and it's like it's just like confusing. It's like cool. I don't
Now,
know.
again, you can't go backwards in this process. So the reflecting of life, right? When a person is old and they look at themselves and they say, only had two kids and one's, I didn't really embed him with the right values. So he's in his late 30s, traveling the world and being a businessman, a hotshot, and you have no grandkids. Like your reflection on life, when you're sitting there and you say, I worked, I grind, I build a home, I raise children. Now I have nachas. I see my grandkids. I see healthy families who are thriving, who are set, who are established. You're living off the fruits of what you've built. But the middle stage is built on the beginning stage as that. So even if you turn things around and you still are able to knock it out of the park in the middle stage or even the reflection, I mean the reflection period, if you fail in the first two, then I don't know what reflection even looks like. Spend your life going around telling people not to live the life that you lived, maybe. But because these people die alone. They die alone. They die by themselves and they have a lot of regrets and they have like a lot of anxiety when they're leaving this world because they're like, what did I do with my time here? His point is you can't get those time periods back. The way that you work on yourself and your hashkafos and your values and the way you set yourself up. And again, I'm presenting it in a very not I don't want to say black and white. I'm presenting it very like basic. There's always nuance to life. There's always things that are outside of our control, and there are elements God will throw curveballs. I'm just talking about baseline. Baseline story. What those should aim for, right? Barring some like mental health crisis that just pops up. That you work on yourself as a child, as a teenager, to develop your values, to go and work on yourself, to establish yourself, to become the best version of yourself, so that way you can go out and find somebody who's worthy of you on that level. So your head on straight can start to build a home with nachas and have beauty and kedusha in it, so that you can, after you have lived life, you can reflect back on that. And he's saying the exact same thing with his avodas Hashem, the exact same mashal. You miss these chapters. You miss these time periods and you play your whole life. And even if you're able to make it up and still be able to do the best that you can, okay, I turned it around, I became Baal Tshuva, whatever, got married in my 40s, and yeah, I was able to have two kids at 42 and 44, whatever. Okay, so your kids are having a bar mitzvah and you're in your 60s. Okay, fine. It's not ideal, but at least you were able to. It'll never make up for that time period, right? If a person has the wherewithal, if they have the chachma to see that as much as every teenager thinks that this is the most important thing of my life, it's the most important thing because it sets you up for the future. And you're not thinking down the road at those other stages, and you're not setting yourself up effectively. You're missing out on something crucial that will affect you for the remainder of your life. And it can never be made up. You can never go back and do those teenage years again. The best thing that we can possibly do is take advantage and wake up to the time period in which we are in. I'm preaching to the choir over here because you guys have both done an excellent, excellent job at this. But to take these times serious, to take next year serious and realize that you're building and investing because you want to, when you get to the stage of living life, you want to be doing it on the most optimum level possible so that you can look back in your life and not have any regrets. Look at it and say, I did everything. I laid it all out on the table. I did the best that I can. And I could have nachas every single day knowing that I did. I could sit back and I can enjoy the pleasure of my grandchildren. I can have a relationship with Hashem. I can devote my life to go seeing Hashem's world and just having blessings and simcha wherever it is that I go. So from now on, students, both young and old, you're working in the service of Hashem, who is holy, great, mighty, and awesome. You have the privilege of being members of the army of the highest of the high, the eternal, the infinite. Although the loftiest angels cannot see him, they ask, where is this place of glory? Right? Yeah, he rests upon you and dwells within you. It's so beautiful. Even his name and God of hosts is called after you as legions. Tell him, our Father, our King, we are yours. We offer to you all of our strength and soul, and we dedicate ourselves to your Torah and your service to be Mekabel ol Malchus Shemayim. Now, dear students, go out and conquer the world for your Father, King of glory. Chazak, chazak, v'nischazek. That is the end of chapter 13, and that is the beginning of our lives. Shkayach. I want to thank you guys for what a ride. Yes, you can review chapters 11 and 12 on your own time. Talks about delving into Hasidus, and it's important. If you couldn't tell, he's very into it.
Danielle, let's bring it to the zone.
I'm down.
Okay.
I want to thank you guys for what's been an incredible year and an incredible opportunity to learn with you guys. For you and Hadar as well, I want to add her into this speech, and for those who have
Let's see
come and
Hadar.
gone, those who have come and gone throughout the
Sarah.
course of our journey. Hi, Sudi. um,
Yeah.
that I have tremendous amount of faith in you guys. I only found this safer when I was 22 years old, and it totally rocked my life. It was every pump up speech I could have ever asked for and hoped for, because our time is valuable and
Same.
precious, and time goes, it moves. And when you're working and you're doing the Ratzon Hashem and you're trying to just be the best that you can be, and you wake up to these ideas early on, what it does for your life is just unbelievable. I've been around long enough to see Advanced wires who are 30 in their mid 30s now. I'm able to see what happens when a person takes their youth years seriously. And it doesn't mean again to sacrifice any enjoyment or fun, believe me. But I have a lot of faith in you guys because you guys got it right. You take the Piasetzner's words to heart. It's important to you. You're taking the notes and you're ingraining the knowledge into yourself. It's becoming Bina already, and Emir Hashem Das. You're living your life by it. And you'll come into seminary next year and you'll take advantage. You'll be surrounded by people who have been in Jewish environments their whole life, right? Not like you. And yet you're gonna blow past them because you're gonna understand it. It's gonna take them 4 months to figure out what you guys live by. So Atzlacha Rabbah, and thank you guys for a great year. And
Thank
that's that.
you.
Thank
So
you.
sad. Wait, one last emoji.
Till next time.
Kill like everyone just gets clocked and then I'm like, wait, emoji. What's like an emoji that like
Do a
represents
clock.
yeah, a clock and a sad face. Any sad face.
And a fire,
And a fire. Why fire?
because we got to go out and conquer the world for Hakadosh Baruch Hu. That's
The
why.
Ish Kodesh also.
That's it. Let's
Yeah.
do right by
Because
him.
I can't say P is this I can't say his name.
Piazetzna.
P is
It's on the cover of your book.
I know I can't
Right.
say it. I literally
Klaimus
gave a speech about
Palamish
him. I go,
Shapira.
what do I call him?
His neshama should have an aliyah. Thank you to the Piazetzna, to the Ish Kodesh for
He
bringing such
deserves it,
fiery
man.
Torah into this world. Absolutely.
Crazy Torah.
Hashem should see it and give him an aliyah neshama
And
over and over again. All right, shkayach guys, and to all a good night.